right? And what was her sister? A princess! The Wicked Witch of the East, bro!
Last year on Christmas Day, I spent the entire day drawing this illustration of Bilbo Baggins based off of the stop-motion animated puppets from Rankin and Bass Christmas specials. You can check out the whole video up on my channel, but this year I decided to do Dorothy Gale from the Wizard of Oz movie from the 30s, specifically in the same Rankin and Bass style. As some of you can probably tell, I'm more of a Halloween person, but Christmas is also really important to me. The only problem is I don't really care for a lot of Christmas movies. There's obviously some classic movies that I try to watch every year, like The Grinch, Muppets Christmas Carol, or A Christmas Story. But for the most part, a lot of the movies that I watch in December are usually movies that don't really have a lot to do with Christmas at all. Though some count as Christmas movies only by technicality, like the first Narnia movie or Batman Returns. But for the most part, a Christmas marathon for me usually just involves a lot of fantasy movies and the Rankin and Bass stop-motion animated puppets, and so I decided to combine the two last year, and I'm thinking of making it a tradition. So this time, I'm just going to draw Dorothy Gale from The Wizard of Oz, because that is a movie that, while having absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, I watch every single year. When it came to designing Bilbo last year, I tried to look at a lot of different puppets that I thought had a similar look to what I wanted to give him, so I looked at a lot of the elves from Christmas movies and a lot of little boy characters to sort of get the texture of the puppet, like where it shines on the cheek. And I tried to look at the design from the Rankin and Bass movie that's in 2D. For Dorothy, I actually saved way more references than I showed when I was designing my little collage of characters at the start of this video. I mostly just kept those up because those are the ones that I looked at the most to see how the lighting worked or how the hair looked on the puppets. But I looked at a lot of female characters from various different projects to sort of get the proportions right. A lot of the times their heads are really large, but their feet are really small. And they don't usually have 5 fingers. They usually have 3 or 4. I also looked at a lot of their 2D projects, like the Frosty the Snowman movie, to see what the kids' hair looked like, and obviously I looked at Judy Garland. A lot of the female puppets in Rankin and Bass movies don't really have as much wonky character design as the male characters, so they don't usually have, big noses or silly facial features. A lot of them kind of have the same sort of look, but I did want her to look really cute, so I tried to give her the sort of circular button nose that's really like pink that the movies have, and I also tried to give her those little tears that kind of look like hot glue, and they could absolutely be hot glue, but I wouldn't know. I also tried to make the eyes look like the puppet from the Santa Claus is Coming to Town movie, because the eyes tend to look different depending on the project. Around this step in the process, I realized that she was looking a little too blocky because I was mostly basing it off of my design from last year, and I realized that I kind of wanted it to look more realistic, so more like a puppet, less like a drawing. So I started going over my lines to make the yarn texture for the hair, and then I would sort of strategically go over the lines to make lighting for the dress or something. But overall, I eventually just decided to make an overlay layer and just make my lines the color of maybe a darker color of whatever it is that it was, to keep it in line without blending into the background. I don't know if I'm really explaining myself all that well, but basically I just didn't want it to have really thick line art like the last one. And obviously, if I was going to do Dorothy, I had to do Toto. You can't have Dorothy without Toto. The only problem is that I could not think of a single dog in Rankin and Bass movies, and I'm sure that there are, but I wasn't going to look it up. It was Christmas and I was lazy. Instead, I was just focusing on the way that Rudolph is presented in the movie, so the texture that he has, but I didn't want to animate the eyes too much because I thought it would draw too much attention. I also looked at a cat from what I think is the Baby New Year's movie. I can't remember, and I tried to go off from there and try to make it look fuzzier. Overall, there are some things that I could absolutely work on, like the dog, because I don't really think I succeeded in making it look like a Rankin and Bass dog puppet. But if I compare it to last year's Rankin and Bassification of a classic fantasy character, I definitely think it looks really good. I think it looks even better than the Bilbo one, which I did not think I was going to accomplish because I really do love that design. And since last year I made some little stickers to go with the design, this time I tried to have some fun with it, and I made a black and white version of Dorothy and Toto too. For a drawing I did in one day, like I did last year, it's not that bad. It's definitely a fun project that I want to be able to do every year. It combines the Rankin and Bass Christmas movies that are my favorite with the other movies that I associate with Christmas that have nothing to do with them, and it makes it feel more like there's a reason that I watch them. It gives me an excuse to watch them, basically. Next year, I'm thinking the White Witch from Narnia or maybe a Star Wars character. If you guys have any other suggestions for not quite Christmas movies, let me know. And check out my sketchbook tour.